on September 16th, 2025. And we have two absences at the moment, Miranda Dupre, Ashley Andrus, and Tim is out of town, but is on Zoom. Okay, this meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely, and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. One member of this public body or other staff is present at the location to ensure the public can participate if desired. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or of the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by email to selectboard@hartford-vt.org. In the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. As required by the open meeting law, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call, attendance of all members participating in the meeting, and have those members attending remotely identify themselves to ensure that they can hear and be heard throughout the meeting. Can we start with you, Eric?
Here.
All right. Ida?
Here.
Mike?
Here.
Mary? Here. And Tim? I think you're muted.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah, just tell us that you can see and you can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you and see you. Kind of cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. All right. So we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have someone who'd like to volunteer to say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Happy to.
All right, thanks, John.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. We do not have any business with the local liquor control board, and we do not have business with the local cannabis control board. And there is a change to the order of agenda.
Got a couple of things, if you don't mind. The first is to add under appointments, the appointment of Ashley Andreas as a member of the Housing and Homelessness Committee and also serving as the Select Board liaison. And the other is to remove the executive session discussion item as it's just slightly premature, and hoping that we can reschedule that for September 30th.
Thank you, John. Okay, we are moving on to the public comment period. You have 3 minutes to speak, and remember, if there are questions about town operations, you can always contact the town manager instead of trying to use this as a venue for dialogue. Is there anybody in the room who would like to use public comment? Is there anybody online?
No hands online.
Okay, so we will close public comment and move on to select board comments and announcements. Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to note, I know the town manager has it in his report as well, but tax appeals for this year have concluded. There are 26 applications or appellants. There was at least one withdrawn, but still, I think there were 6 separate sessions that were held here at Town Hall to review people's property valuations. And it was a big lift. It was a lot of work. I know that the town clerk, I only see a portion of what the town clerk does in preparation for these meetings. And then there's a whole lot of work after the fact when the board makes a determination. The clerk has to compile a bunch of information and get letters out and meet deadlines and statutory requirements and so on. The assessor also, for each appellant, each property that was challenged, the assessor has to do a lot of work, which in some cases includes site visits. And the Board of Civil Authority, the leadership of the board, in particular, Nancy Howe and Sarah Blood, doing a lot of work, and then the board in general. And I was also impressed with the appellants. I was impressed with the whole process, but the appellants, I would say almost everyone that I participated in 3 of them, and almost every appellant was very respectful, understood the challenges that are involved in valuing a property, and just wanted to get a fair process, a fair hearing. So overall, I would say the hearings were, A, a lot of work, and B, I think well done. It does raise, in my mind, some questions about the assessment itself. And in the near future, I will probably ask the board if board members want to consider asking the staff to begin the conversation of how do we do this in the future and how might we do this a little bit better. Because I don't know that I understand there were some limitations with this year's process. And maybe those limitations are inevitable. But I think there's potential for improvement, in my opinion, of how we do a townwide assessment. And it's probably not too early to begin the conversation of at least how might we go about doing it. Because we'll have to do it again sooner or later. So, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I'll just make a note that Ashley Andreas entered at 6:05. Okay, Ida.
I have no comments.
Okay, Mike.
No comments.
And I have no comments, Ashley.
No comments.
Sorry. Then we will move on to appointments. Let's
Should we make sure Tim has something to say? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
thank you.
Point of order. Yeah.
Sorry, Tim, is there anything?
Hang in there, Mary. Get some water. I would kind of concur with Eric. I've noticed a tremendous amount of work putting all that tax work together and then following up on those appeals. We do have some abatement stuff going on in October. It's a ton of work, and everybody, from my perspective, that's involved in it is very professional and very thorough. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Add me in, I can.
Okay.
as well.
I just never know. It just starts flowing. Okay, so our next item of business is the appointment of Torrelee Fisher-Sass to the West Hartford Library Board of Trustees for a term ending on March 3rd, 2026. Torrelee, we usually ask individuals to come up to the podium. That way you can introduce yourself. You
Okay.
can tell us a little bit about this adventure you're embarking on.
All right, so I'm Torrelee Fisher-Sass. I've lived in West Hartford since my husband and I bought our home there, a small farmstead in 1978. So I've been there for 47 years, I can't believe. I've been someone who's used the West Hartford Library. My daughters have actually used, as they were growing up through school, both the Quechee Library, the Village Library, and the West Hartford Library. More recently, with grandchildren, we've been gravitating toward the West Hartford Library and really enjoyed the farmers market that they had the last few summers. I am myself a semi-retired teacher. I'm a reading specialist. I was a special educator here in Hartford and in Hanover, and was also a school administrator at Thetford Academy for 9 years. So libraries are really very near and dear to my heart. And whenever I hear people say that they don't want to read a paper book anymore and they don't think that there's a place for a library in the community, I shudder. So I get the digital Hartford newsletter every couple of weeks, and I saw that there were several openings, and I thought, you know, this is really sad. The West Hartford Library is such a sweet little library. It's a real jewel, and I would love to see it be more of a community center. And I'm not making any criticism about previous board members. I know many of them personally, and I think Sandy's done a really wonderful job there. My little granddaughters love her. But I just think that there could be, you know, from the board, ideas generated to sort of breathe some more fresh energy into it. So I decided to just throw my name out there and say that I would be happy to serve. I have more time now that I'm only teaching maybe 12 or 15 hours a week. And if people would like me to do it, then I will, you know, graciously step up.
Any questions for Torrelee?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, I think. Thanks for stepping up, Tori. I'm interested to see what you come up with and what the board comes up with, because when you think about it, the library is one of the few focal points in West Hartford, in the village. And so making it a place of you know, a centralized activity place makes a lot of sense. So I'm excited about seeing what you and the board come up with in the future.
Yeah, good. Me too. So I hope that they, you know, that they're interested in doing more, because like I said, it's a wonderful space, and we don't have the general store there any longer. And the farmer's market there had really taken off. Last summer, they almost needed someone to direct traffic because of the cars coming in and out. It reminded me of the Norwich Route 5 on Saturday morning. And then this summer, it fell flat. We only had one or two vendors, and people came the first week or two, but there were no vendors. And so then there were no people, so we couldn't attract vendors. And I think that, you know, one initiative that I definitely work on would be to get that off the ground early, to ensure that we have vendors and we have publicity, and we get the word out that we'd like to get that back on track. So thank you.
Any other questions? Tim, do you have anything?
My only comment, it is a great facility, and there's a great swimming hole across the street as well. So I agree. I really hope it can continue to be a great community asset.
Thank you, Tim. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
as a fellow resident of West Hartford, I am proud to have the select board move that we appoint Torrelee Fisher-Sass to the West Hartford Library Board of Trustees for a term ending on March 3rd, 2026.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Eric. And I will call a roll call vote for this. So we'll start with Eric.
Aye.
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 And Tim?
Aye, definitely. Thank you, Torrelee.
Thank you.
Torrelee.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you so much.
Yeah.
We
That's
appreciate
it?
That's
all
I'm
it
on the
is.
board?
You're on it.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you. All right, so we will move on to the appointment of Ashley Andreas as liaison to the Housing and Homeless Commission.
Do I have to go stand up there?
You can do as you wish. You're a select board member. That makes you my boss.
Mary, you're my boss. Do I go stand over
You
there?
can do whatever you want to.
I'll stay here if that's okay with everyone.
All right.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any
People out in the
questions?
community should be made aware that we had a vacancy due to Brandon
Okay.
Smith's departure. And we
Did a switcheroo?
did a switcheroo, a negotiated outcome with Tim and Ashley. And one of the components of that arrangement was that Ashley was going to fill that vacancy. So we appreciate her applying.
Right, and that is a commission that requires an application. So, Tim,
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna ask, Ashley, do you want to share anything about your interest and experience that make you compelled to join the committee?
Sure. Well, one thing that I put in my application that was kind of my high priority is that I think it's really important that we have folks who are affected most by the issues that we're seeking to solve as part of the conversation, and that like affected community are the experts in the crises that they face. And so one of the goals that I have in joining the board is to like just continue to bridge that connection between the folks in Hartford who are experiencing or who are like close to experiencing homelessness with the committee, and make sure that we are like working together in a collaborative way. And not to say that that's not happening already in some capacity, but you know, I'm pretty involved with a lot of different folks in Hartford from a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different socioeconomic conditions. And so I'm excited to, bridge those connections.
Thank you. Tim, do you have any questions for Ashley?
I don't. I actually appreciate you stepping up. I know it's definitely a key community issue. I mean, I think since the hotel voucher program has stopped, we see a large influx of people who are clearly struggling and trying to find their way. So I hope that we can kind of come up with some new solutions and be supportive in our community.
It's more for John, I think, since we added this. What's the motion language for the term?
It ends at March, when there would have to be a new election following the select board, reorganization as part of that. So it'd be the same motion as the one for Torrelee, Fisher-Sass.
Okay.
Housing and homelessness for a term ending on March 3rd, 2026.
You
I
ready
can
for
make that motion. if
That'd
you'd
be
like.
great.
I move that we appoint Ashley Andreas to the Housing and Homelessness Committee for a term ending on March 3rd, 2026.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ida seconds that. All right, I'll take a roll call vote. Eric?
Aye.
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Ashley?
Abstain.
Okay, Tim?
I vote aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, so then we will move on to board report, motions and ordinances. And first item of business is the update from the Climate Action Steering Team Committee.
Madam Chair, we have the town manager report tonight.
If you'd like to hear it,
Oh, I am so sorry.
that's quite all right. We could have a shorter meeting that way.
Yeah, this are.
I'll try to be more concise. So thank you, Madam Chair. First thing I want to report is that the Bugby Building Committee met again on Thursday, September 11th, and will meet again Thursday, September 25th. All meetings are taking place at the Bugby Senior Center and are open to the public. The town manager has spent most of the first half of September meeting with department heads to discuss their budget proposals in detail. The budgets will be revised based on these discussions and will be merged into a single budget notebook, which will be circulated or distributed to the select board in October. The town manager will provide a budget overview at the October 14th select board meeting, and department heads will begin making their budget proposal presentations to the select board over several regular and special select board meetings beginning on October 28th. I do want to note that the finance department will be closed this Friday, September 19th, and there's been plenty of messaging out to the community to make everyone aware of that. I am very disheartened to report that there was a pedestrian injury, eventually leading to death, of a Hartford resident at the transfer station. This event took place Saturday, September 6th. Again, the gentleman is a Hartford resident, Mr. Paul Smolin, and he was taken after this incident down to the hospital where he suffered cardiac arrest and passed away. So we're deeply saddened by this tragic motor vehicle accident, and we sympathize with the Smolin family at this difficult time. On Friday, October 3rd, from 5:30 to 7, members of the select board will be available for a meet and greet opportunity at the filling station located at 70 Gate Street. Come out and meet your local government officials, while enjoying the vibrancy of downtown White River Junction. There will be light appetizers provided, but drinks are your own responsibility. I do have a bit of an update, and that is that Miranda, who works not only as a select board member, but with Vital Communities, has had occasion to chat with James Coleman of the Green Mountain Economic Development Corporation, who is standing up a welcome wagon program in the Upper Valley. And Mr. Coleman and I spoke yesterday after Miranda's introduction, and it seems as though they would be interested in participating in the meet and greet event by encouraging their own mailing list to come out to the event and to provide the food for the event, to underwrite the cost of the food for the event. So unless there are objections, I will let our folks at the Green Mountain Economic Development Corporation know that we're happy and willing to collaborate with them on this event. Because I will be away for the next 10 days and not really able to negotiate a combined flyer, I think the agreement we had tentatively was that we would continue with our messaging, as you've seen on the table, and they will notify their folks of an opportunity to come and meet some people in town at the same time, at the same location. That hopefully will develop more foot traffic for our venue and hopefully mean more people getting a chance to meet the Hartford members of the select board.
Tim, do you have anything to say or any comments or questions directed towards John?
I see. It seems an appropriate match and a nice kind of segue into the whole thing. Candidly, I don't know how popular we'll be that night, but it's a small venue, so hopefully we can all fit and enjoy each other's company and get to know people in the community.
And it's a way for Green Mountain Economic Development Corporation to maybe expand their welcome wagon offerings and to take some of the burden off of Hartford taxpayers by picking up the cost of the food that'll be there. So might just serve as a win-win. We hope that it will. Finally, I'll be out of the office, as I mentioned, starting tomorrow through Saturday, the 27th. In my absence, Fire Chief Cooney will serve as acting town manager, and he's got my contact information if he needs to get a hold of me. That's it.
All right.
With the exception of other departments who report as follows. The Barwood Arena will soon be firing up the refrigeration chillers and making a sheet of ice for the upcoming skating season. Yes, it's that time of year already. The Wilder Historical Marker Project received a donation from Great River Hydro in the amount of $5,000. The funding will purchase the historic marker that will be placed at the small park entrance and provide a history of the area community industry there and those community members that make Wilder their home. The fall and winter brochure of the Parks and Rec Department is out and was delivered through the school system this week. Digital copies are available at www.hartfordrec.com. The department took delivery of their new Parks truck and Workman utility vehicle. Both pieces of equipment had been on order since the beginning of the new fiscal year. VTrans has received funding for the level 3 chargers. That's the fast chargers through the National Electric Vehicle Initiative. Hartford is still positioned to receive chargers through this program, and discussions to finalize the installation of these chargers are starting this week. Construction for these chargers is likely to start in the spring. That's from Dana, our environmental sustainability coordinator. Finance has been working on closing out fiscal year 25, preparing for the fiscal year 25 audit. And by the way, auditors will be here in the building from October 14th to the 7th of November. Often that's a time for Gail or myself to reach out to select board members, encouraging you to stop by and chat with the auditors about any issues you or they might have in mind. Planning and Development notes that the Route 5 sidewalk project from Ballard Vale Drive to Arboretum Lane is expected to be substantially completed by next week. So that's been a good project, and they're buttoning up their punch list right about now. The Highway Division of Public Works note that they're starting cross culvert replacement work on Queechee Main Street in preparation for road paving. The White River Pollution Abatement Plant notes that the chief operator continues with plant orientation for a new assistant chief operator. The Queechee Pollution Abatement Plant reports that they have staff registered for confined space and open trench safety meetings. Town clerk's office will be closed from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock for lunch from Wednesday, September 17th through Wednesday, September 24th due to limited staffing. Apologies for any inconvenience. The fire department wants to thank his co-workers, community members, and friends for recognizing his 30-year anniversary, 30 years of service to the town of Hartford. Preparations are underway for the upcoming Fire Prevention Week open house at Station 1, scheduled for Saturday, October 18th. This event will serve as a valuable opportunity to engage with the community, promote fire safety awareness, and showcase department capabilities. More details regarding the schedule, activities, and staffing will be shared in the coming weeks. The chief wants to have us join him in congratulating the following firefighters on their successful completion of a year-long training program and their promotion to senior firefighter. Max Wunderlich, Jeremy Rada, Richard Colburn. He also notes that due to ongoing drought conditions across the state, he is urging all residents to exercise extreme caution with any kind of outdoor burning. The Fire Engine Committee reports that their newly activated committee will be visiting manufacturers participating in Sourcewell purchasing agreement to evaluate options for our next piece of fire apparatus. These visits are an important step in ensuring we select the most suitable and cost-effective equipment to meet the operational needs of our department and community. Police reports that on September 4th at about 8 p.m., HPD and HFD responded to the area of Manawaka Conservation Area for a reported missing person lost on the trail. HPD deployed its new utility terrain vehicle, UTV, with members of HPD and HFD on board and successfully located the lost hiker, returning him to the trailhead. Outreach is working on organizing the community coalition meeting scheduled for September 25th at 5:30 at the Hartford Public Safety Building. The accountability, which is the subcommittee, the accountability subcommittee meeting is scheduled for October 8th at the Wilder Library. I think, and am confirming that that's it.
All right. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for John? Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. John, as you know, we had a few exchanges, or just an exchange on the parking counts that the planning department conducted recently, the summer counts. And I just wanted to underscore my hope that future counts include a day of week attribute so that we can slice and dice the data by day of week. The response from Lori was a little unclear. I mean, she basically said there's a whole bunch of data, and here's the winter report is an example, but the winter report, to the best of my knowledge, doesn't break things out at least in a tabular form by day of week. There is some mention of comparison between days of week, Monday to Wednesday, Friday to Wednesday, or so on and so forth, but in the context of a narrative. And the board, having recently just gone through updating the parking ordinance and discussing what to do with meters, Saturday was one of the factors that we deliberated on. And I think having some more data there in the future, I would say it's probably reasonably likely that a future board in the next few years, we'll have to revisit the, when are we going to charge for parking question. And so unless there's a reason there that it's, I mean, I know staff generally doesn't work Saturday. And so this would be an extra burden, but it may be worth it. And so I would encourage my fellow board members to indicate sort of generally whether they agree or not.
Anybody want to add anything to what Eric said?
I think it's a reasonable request and it makes sense to me.
Tim, do you have anything to add to either Eric's comment or asking John?
I do not. The only thought I had for John, and he doesn't certainly have to answer it tonight, is I know we've approached the tax delinquencies differently in the sense that we had a tax sale, and I didn't know what the next steps were as it relates to the properties that the town, I don't know whether they actually officially acquired them or where we are with that, with those situations. So if we could get an update in that next meeting, that'd be great.
Thank you, Tim. Is there anybody online? Thank you. Okay, so then we will move on to the update again from the Climate Action Steering Team Committee.
So good evening. I'm John Reed. I'm chair of the Climate Action Steering Team. And Dana and I worked out a little memo, and I hope all of you had a chance to look at it. If you have had a chance to look at it, would you like me to go through it, or would you like to ask questions about it?
John has read the memo carefully, wherein we ask people to assume that the board has read their material.
Yeah. I mean, I've read it, so I'm comfortable with just moving into questions.
Anybody want anything specific? Okay,
I appreciate that, John.
go ahead.
Fire away.
Yes, Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess first two comments to John, you and the rest of the committee. One, thank you in your memo for asking if there's anything else that you can do for the board. I think that sometimes we hear updates and we kind of forget that most of the committees and commissions that we work with in town here work with the board in an advisory capacity. And so it's good for us to have questions for you to advise us on and have that advisor sort of relationship. So thank you for underscoring that. And thank you for reaching out and asking that question. And secondly, general comment would be that I have is this is really difficult work. And I appreciate everything that you're doing. It goes for you and staff members and the balance of the committee and the Energy Commission as well. It's difficult work because despite what industry would like us to believe, technology isn't the solution. Technology might be part of the solution, but the reality is we have to change behavior, and that is, and that I think is daunting. And so that's a big lift. And so I appreciate the work that you're doing and recognize that it's extremely challenging. I do have several areas that I wanted to get into in terms of questions. So let me just start off with the thermal energy network. I was wondering if you mentioned that in the memo, and I was wondering if there's conversations going on beyond the downtown White River Junction project. This is an interesting project, but in reality, and I didn't get a chance to calculate this, but in reality, if you look at the number of square footage of commercial or even just conditioned square footage townwide, this is going to serve a very, very small portion of that. And there is some carbon reduction associated with it. I think there was an earlier report on that, and it's it's definitely a factor. But the real power is in scaling it. The real power is in or replicating it, probably is a better word, is where else in Hartford do we have opportunities? So the schools would be one, but there are other developments that are dense and so on. And I'm wondering if either CAST or the Energy Commission or anyone is thinking in that context and laying the groundwork for conversations beyond just the White River Junction downtown project.
My understanding is that we are still looking for other locations than just in downtown White River. And that's basically being done through the Energy Commission. Dana, did you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I'll just say, we focus on White River Junction because it's the density of housing down there and also some of the other development going on. We haven't gone to the lengths that we have downtown. We're with downtown. We did the feasibility study with Oak Ridge National Labs. We have load calculations for both the ground and the buildings down there. And just there's some developers are interested in it because of the possible renovations with the Coolidge Hotel. We haven't really identified other areas in Hartford, partially because of density of buildings. A lot of the other areas would just be individual homeowners, whereas downtown there's kind of bigger bang for the buck where we have the larger buildings down there, if that makes sense.
I understand that it's an obvious, it has obvious benefits in the density and the square footage. But I don't know at what point a project like this becomes infeasible in terms of the density of and the sort of square footage that you're conditioning. And so that would be an interesting question. I just think that if this assuming that the downtown project is a success, it would make sense to already begin laying the groundwork for future projects, to have them coming on. And the schools are an obvious, they have tons of square footage. And it seems to me that some of the development that we're doing are reasonably good sized buildings. And then there are some neighborhoods that have considerable density, I would think.
So, but I think a big part of the linchpin for downtown is that the discussion around what happens with the Coolidge Hotel. And we've had people in industry, we've had folks that do these networks tell us that if the renovation would make a commitment to go on geothermal, and that would be their anchor tenant, that would be worth it for them to put some money towards getting this done, getting this going. Whereas in the other areas of town where you have individual homeowners, you don't kind of have that bulk economy of scale. And that's really the holdup, if that makes sense.
So how do you create that? I mean, you create it through co-ops and things like that. You create it through organizations or legal entities that people buy into, right?
Correct. But I mean, I'm sure you know, if you were going to create a co-op, say individual homes that wanted to participate in a geothermal network, there's a lot of updating of the house itself, weatherization, getting the house to current code or close to current code, and then there's the other challenges like the distribution for a geothermal heating system. I don't want to get wonky into the weeds here, but like a geothermal system will only heat water to about 120 or 140 versus 180 coming off of your typical boiler. So you need to also have a larger distribution system in the home. So it's a big commitment for a homeowner. And I guess the issue would be, can we get 4 to 6 to 8 homeowners to commit to doing that, to make that kind of project feasible and attractive to a developer?
Sure. I'm not saying it's not without its challenges. What I'm suggesting though is that the power in this overall effort is in setting an example, raising awareness, and then replicating, at least on some level. Maybe it's not it's not going to be exact replicas, but the potential for replication is where the power lies in from my perspective.
No, it makes sense. And then of course we've got to read the teeth with what's going on at the federal level where my understanding is the incentives for a geothermal district will remain in place throughout next year, but smaller individual or group ones, those incentives are going by the wayside. So there's a lot to that question.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have some questions?
Do you have more, Aaron?
I do, but I can allow you to go
Yeah,
and then
well,
I can
nice.
come back.
Yeah.
If,
Okay.
And then I'd like to also see if Tim has any.
sure.
Yeah, thank you so much for the work that you guys are doing. And I really appreciate your recommendation that we reconsider the decision to provide town recycling. That's a very hot topic, and I was really happy to see that in your report. So I guess my question is, as part of that recommendation, like, would it be your board's preference to see that like in the next budget proposal? Or do you have a preference on, without getting in the weeds of it, if we just went back to the like single hauler program that we had, or trying to come up with a more creative solution versus having a town staff and truck, which was something that came up? Just curious about like your take on those kind of different options, or if it doesn't really matter, it's just that we need to provide that service somehow.
Okay, so you could ask each committee member and you'd get a different answer to the question of what should we be thinking about. I believe this is a matter that has to be handled beyond our committee. And I'm not sure exactly what the best way to proceed is. I suspect it would be helpful for everyone involved if we had some statistics. And then, having said that, I have no idea how we would get those statistics as to how many people are taking the recycling material to the transfer station, how many people have hired someone to collect theirs, how many people are just sitting on it, how many people are just throwing it into the trash. I just, how do we determine what's being done now?
And I would say stay tuned for September 30th, which is when we should hear from Brian Gazda about what's been happening at the transfer station since the program was discontinued.
And then I have one follow-up, if that's okay, or did you want to speak to that?
I do have a comment on that same topic, if that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so so that also caught my eye, but the part that caught my eye was the later part of the sentence about potentially providing incentives to residents to undertake recycling on their own. And I hadn't thought about that as a potential opportunity yet. And it did spark my curiosity, like, if, I mean, and I don't know if this is possible, but like, and I don't know if this is what your committee was envisioning, but something like a tax break, like a line item on your tax bill that says, and here's $50 off.
Yeah,
for
right.
recycling, you know, and we could budget for that, and then we wouldn't be going through an escalating contract negotiation situation. So anyway, that's what it came to mind for me, but is that what, did you have any specific thoughts on the incentive piece, or?
Well, yes, I have some.
Yeah.
The first is that my wife about once a month carries anything that's redeemable for 5 cents over to the transfer station. And she does it mostly because we know it'll get recycled if she does that. But she's also happy to get the $5 check or cash that's given her for the recycled cans and bottles. When we lived in Connecticut, you could go to a Stop and Shop, and there was a big, huge machine where you could put your cans and bottles in it, and it would spit out cash for the redemption. So there may be simpler forms of incentive than going all the way into the tax system.
One suggestion that's been made is not charging people who are only going to use recycling services and not use garbage. And the question there is, how does one enforce that to prevent somebody who's got the free pass from using the pay to go functions as well?
Tim, did you have anything, a question to ask John? John Reed?
No, I have a lot of thoughts around this. You know, I didn't want to get too much in the weeds with the curbside stuff, but you know, I think in general, Hartford is a very suburban location. And the combination of that with this curbside challenge, I think is a big one. But I really think that we need to focus on trying to centralize and make efficient and convenient the services that we want to provide as a town. You know, my original vision, to be honest with you, was to buy 25,000 gifts and turn it into our new transfer station because I thought it was more centrally located, so it would reduce that travel time for people to use it and have it be very convenient. But you know, that's long gone for that. But I think we should do. I think before we get into the budget cycle, as we're heading into that soon, I think we really need to do some type of town-wide high quality survey and get a sense of what we're just talking about what people are indeed doing in that realm so that we can make better decisions around that situation.
Thank you, Tim. And Ashley, you had a follow-up?
Yeah, I agree, Tim, with your thoughts there. And I think that not only should the survey capture what folks are doing now, I think we need a more direct survey than the one that we did last year, which was kind of like, what would you do? Like, what do you do now? What would you do if you didn't do that? Like, I think we need to directly ask residents, do you want us to, you know, put a line item in the budget for curbside pickup recycling? Yes or no? It's very straightforward. It doesn't have to be an elusive, like, what's going to happen to it if we don't pick it up? Like, let's just ask the voters what they want really directly. So that's one thought on that. But then my other question, moving away from the recycling, to your question of what would the board or public like to see from the steering committee. This is kind of a question, and maybe you've already considered it, but I'm curious about what ways you guys have thought about how our infrastructure ties in to the climate crisis. And I know that there are separate departments that handle, you know, like public works and like they're kind of their own entities, but I'm worried about like our roads and our wastewater systems and our water treatment facilities. And I'm just curious about if the committee's talked about those things and if there's been any like research of what other towns or similar committees might be doing to like make their infrastructure resilient to climate disasters.
Good question. Let me start with the last part of it. And are there studies of what other towns have done? I'm sure there are, but we haven't seen them specifically. And what we need, frankly, is some kind of research help to identify what's out there. The organization that helped put the climate action plan together, Blue Dot, may be a place we could go back to answer some or try to get answers to some of these questions. I think our relationship with them has been terminated, but I'm not sure that it couldn't be easily reopened. So that's one thought. Second, in terms of the infrastructure, that really is a baffling, for me, a baffling way to attack this problem, because other than the town manager, there's no interaction that we, the individual residents, see between the departments. Now, I know there is interaction. And I'm just not sure what we could do. I mean, I suppose one thing we could do is to have periodic meetings with all of the departments represented and lay out what we're trying to do and our concerns and hear what they have to say about it. That would be one thing we could do, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a great idea to me.
Eric, did you have a question?
I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick comment on that last point, John. Actually, that was the original proposal for the climate action steering team that Pale Blue Dot brought forward was create a team that includes department heads and other key individuals that are decision makers. It morphed into what it is today for a number of reasons, but that was the original proposal was, and that's what that particular consultancy had done with other municipalities was create a team that includes people like the directors of departments that have, the decision-making power directly in addition to citizens that are on commissions and committees as well. But my other question, so anyway, that's, there's no reason why the climate action steering team couldn't be that in the future, as a side note. My other question for you in the committee, John, I have several of them, but I'm going to limit it to one. What is the CAST's plan for the 2027 net zero mandate?
Okay. The current thinking on that is that we need data in order to make the assessment of where we stand. We have not yet begun the task of identifying how we're going to get that data. And we would welcome any suggestions as to exactly what data you would find helpful and what data is de minimis, if you will.
All right, well, I don't want to dive down into the data details, but bear in mind that budget season's coming up and we always receive budget requests from commissions and committees. And so if there are data needs that require consultants or licenses to software or whatever, I would encourage the committee to be thinking about that in short order. And I'm happy to have further this conversation in another venue about how to move forward and what to do with the difference between nets, what to do with if we don't achieve the goal, which we won't, because there are certain diesel vehicles and so on that we just need, right? So we're always going to have emissions. We're not going to be, but how do we achieve the net part of the net zero part? That conversation as well as the measuring, I'm happy to. So feel free to reach out to me for sure.
Will do.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, John.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dave. Okay, next on the agenda is a public meeting number 1 of 2 on town solid waste implementation plan. And to remind people who may be listening, the way we go about this is Brian will give his presentation. We will open for public comment. After Brian's done with his presentation, then we will close the public's part of public comment and move to select board comment and questions. So you are up, Brian.
Well, I can't say I don't think I have much of a presentation, but just the solid waste implementation plan is basically, it's the plan for the transfer station over the next 5 years. The document that was provided here, generated by the state, a lot of the information on here, you'll just see my name and a date down at the bottom. These are the requirements we have to meet for it. So this is stuff that's already been decided by the state that we have to do. There are a couple of areas where, you did get an opportunity to fill in some of our practices that we will do. But for the most part, this is this is what we need to do for our plan. In my conversations with Shannon, this meeting here is for you to ask those questions, if there's any changes to what we can make to the plan to do that, and also to get any public input. That's really the genesis of the next two meetings where we go from here. Couple of items that they did add that are different from what we've had to do in the past is from the July 23 storm event. We have to come up with a disaster preparedness plan now for debris. That's a new requirement. That's probably one of the one that really jumped out to me that we have to come up and identify from our old plan that we have in place right now. But a lot of the stuff here, the business outreach, the A through Z, this is all stuff that we currently have in place already. We're just going to have to go back and maybe make some tweaks here and there and fine tune it. A lot of that goes to like the A through Z and stuff on the website. The state actually directs a lot of the information that we have to have on our website for the transfer station, which a lot of this is outlined in this document right here. One of the big items that we, cost-wise, that's been increasing costs significantly over the last few years has been our household hazardous waste events. The last one we just did, it was a total cost with us in the greater Upper Valley of over $77,000. Okay, so it's getting quite expensive to hold those events. The state knows this, but this is still a requirement that we have to go forward with this. And like I said, once again, it's just, that's the type of stuff they're basically telling us this is what we have to do for that. With that, that's really about it. It's just a mandatory that we hold these two meetings. If there's any changes you do want to make, then it has to be documented by the board. Then I have to resubmit the plan again for a pre-approval. And then we would go from there for adoption of it. So.
Okay, then I will open for public comment. Is there anybody in the room first that has any public comment questions directed towards this implementation plan? Nobody online? Okay. Then we will close public comment. So now it's time for the board. If you have some questions, additions, suggestions for Brian. Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian, as you know, my only or my main concern is about the methodology that we're using for calculating disposal rate. And so I would be really interested in having a disposal rate that's really meaningful, because this is one of the few places that we would calculate it periodically, and it would be useful to know which direction we're heading if we're moving at all. During the development of the climate action plan, I actually was the person doing the data collection for this. So with guidance from former DPW Director Hannah Tyler, I managed to gather the data and do at least the preliminary number crunching. And I found a spreadsheet that I had, and I don't know if it would be of any use to you.
Sure.
You may know far more about this already. But it had some notes in there about how we went about doing it, because the retract data wasn't giving us quite the right information. And if you look at the 2019 SWIP, it says 0.47 pounds per person per day, which is, anyone that knows anything about Americans throwing trash away, that's like a fraction, like a national average is 10 times that on a per daily basis. So in Vermont's better, and Hartford's pretty darn good. We're somewhere around 3.7 according to the CAP. But what we needed to do is look at the number of permits that were held for the transfer station, and then prorate the material that was. So basically Lebanon Landfill served as the main source of information. So the trucks coming in, they know they're coming from Hartford. So the ones coming from Hartford from the transfer station, we were able to just prorate which amount was from Hartford versus non-Hartford. And then the other component of it was trucks that are curbside pickup that are that bypass the transfer station, right?
Right, but I mean, are you talking about like commercial haulers taking their trucks?
Yeah.
See, now, we don't need to, that's not what, my understanding, that's not what we need to track. What we just need to track is the solid waste that we generate at our transfer station. So when we get that data, when I get those numbers from the Lebanon, when we get the invoices, that's the tonnage that we're going to use compared to what, you know, the residents and whatnot like that, not the commercial haulers, like, you know, Casella drops a truck off. This information is just for the transfer station.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a useful distinction. And it's, yeah, it would be, yeah, thank you for clarifying that. So it's a disposal rate, but a subset of the waste that we're generating townwide.
Right, because I mean, you know, you can say that, you know, a Casella truck could say they've been in Hartford, but they could also have been in Heartland, they could have been someplace else. And then you try to, you know, if you want to try to prorate that data out, it would get tough to do that.
Yeah,
it would get tough to do that. So
I guess the denominator that you're using is the population, and so that is actually completely misleading, right?
By day, you know, so you got to take the 10,000 whatever residents we have, times it by 365, and take the tonnage, you know, times it by 2,000, do your divisions, comes out. So it is a low number, because I was having this question with Andy at Greater Upper Valley when we were putting this together. Their number was very low too. For that, so.
Right. Well, I would be interested in seeing if you can come up with another methodology that is more representative.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Tim, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I don't want to take a lot of time, but I have to say that a lot of this information is troubling to me in the sense that, you know, we have the state of Vermont who, you know, definitely has plenty of mandates and regulations about how towns should run their affairs, but they certainly don't write the checks. And I think that in general, the solid waste management overlays that we've had over the last 10, 20 years, I think have been pretty poor. When I was on the planning commission down in Heartland, you know, there was many discussions about the fact that the Lebanon landfill was going to close very soon. And there was this idea that we were going to build this kind of new landfill, which is currently where Twin State Gravel is operating, kind of between Heartland and Hartford. And I'm only bringing this up because I just feel that, you know, looking at these sort of state requirements and state mandates of, you know, we have to do this hazardous waste day, or we have to do this, we have to do that. And the odd thing about it for me too is it's a regional facility. So if we're the Greater Upper Valley Solid Waste District, and we're incurring, for example, the liability of having to clean up this mess of the C&D as a town individually, that just makes no sense to me, because the source point for that C&D wasn't just Hartford, it was the entire district. So I think we have to really kind of step back and perhaps we can talk with the state and start kind of picking this thing apart and saying, how much of this costs are we kind of incurring now and into the future around solid waste management, when in fact, I just think that the planning and the overlays are very poor. And I think we need to rethink it as a town.
Thank you, Tim.
I think it's, you maybe correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I think we have been approached by the state about the idea of a regional hazardous waste site, perhaps to be sited at the transfer station. One would think that if the state has in mind a regional depository of hazardous waste, that there must be some money that they would anticipate providing to the host community. But I guess that remains to be discussed further.
Correct.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, the state has, we met with them, what was it, back in March, February, March. They had a nice little map of all these areas of the state where they all have their like regional hazardous waste facility. And we're the one portion of the state that's missing. And they really have their eye on our facility to become that regional site for that. So we're going to have conversations with the Greater Upper Valley just to, because we do that in conjunction with them. And we're gonna continue having those conversations, because we do, when the facility was built in 1991, that building is there. We have the building there. But it comes to staffing, it's training. Chris Holzrath and I went to the Chittenden solid waste, hazardous waste. There's a lot to it. There's not just people coming with their car and just handing stuff off. You've got to make sure chemicals aren't mixed. You got to make sure stuff is properly packaged. You have to have qualified staff to do it. You just can't
Brian,
come out and do it on a Saturday, so.
yeah, Brian, I just, like back to that point, I think that Hartford as a town is doing, we're trying to do the right things, but we're incurring future liabilities and current expenses that I don't think we should. I think those costs should either be spread among users at large, or the state should be writing a larger check back to our town.
Stay tuned, Tim, for the discussion coming up on the groundwater testing at the landfill, because some of that has to do with trying to get the all clear from the state to find a much more economical way to deal with our C&D pile.
Cool.
Okay. Anybody else on the board? Questions for Brian?
I have one.
Okay.
Should be a quick one. Thank you, Brian, for putting this all together and presenting it in a really easy to understand way. One of my questions is just about on the reduction side, right? Like there's a lot of language in here about, especially around schools and businesses trying to educate folks on the reuse, reduction, donation element of waste. And I'm just curious, like it says that we reach out to the schools, 2 of the 9 schools each year. And I'm curious, like, who does that? What does that look like? Is it just a staff meeting? Are the kids being engaged? Yeah, what's that outreach piece like?
Well, Kelsey will be doing it. Actually, Shannon's coming out to help her go through it. So the first time doing it. Before the prior administrative assistant had done that. It's literally going out. The state has almost a pre-formed checklist of stuff we have to go through. But Shannon's going to be coming out, going with Kelsey, going through the businesses and whatnot, and giving her a hands-on with that. But it's just trying to educate students, businesses, scrap, recycling, what to do. It's just us getting out there and just saying, how can we help you? And, these are the guidelines that you need. Because the state has guidelines that they're supposed to follow, which we don't enforce. The state would enforce if they found a business that was in violation. Okay. So this is also that lead into that this is what you're supposed to be doing by us doing that public outreach.
Yeah, awesome. Well, one kind of suggestion I have is that it might be a fun opportunity to make that like a bit more of a PR campaign type thing where there's some element of because the kids are the impressionable minds of it's hard to get a new habit on a, older person, hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But with the kids, they're so susceptible to it. And I think they find it interesting and engaging to some extent. So there could be a competition, keep all the trash that you produce in a jar and zero waste kind of things. That might be just a fun, students could compete and see who could use the least amount of waste. And just a fun thought.
We can bring in JD to that conversation in terms of the outreach to the community.
I think that would be above and beyond. That would be something we would just want to promote on our own, right? As above and beyond type of thing. Then actually make it a part of our plan.
Yeah. So. Oh, yeah. That's totally. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Ashley. Okay. Anybody else before we move on? Thank you, Brian.
Another round next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right?
See you next time. So I have a point of information about that.
What?
He's up again.
Yes,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
got several
Yes,
more
oh, yeah,
items.
he's not gone.
So the next, when you come before us again, will anything be different or it's just because there's a wait period?
Just the same.
Okay.
The same thing.
See if he had any additions or deletions, then he would add that too. Yeah. Oops. Okay, so the next up is the DPW request to waive purchasing policy to purchase wastewater disinfection system.
So the ultraviolet system is the last step in the effluent processing. In the past couple of years, the system was put in 2012. When I first started, we had one bank that wasn't working. So we did an upgrade, not say an upgrade, we replaced the bank at that time with still what's called the Gen 2 components. And then we did another one last year, which will, if you take a look at that chart where they give you that the outline of when components are to be replaced, the UV banks are the last. And when we did that, that bought us at 5 to 7 years that we could do that. So the unit we're looking at now is to take us into the next generation for the Gen 3 portion of it. So we budgeted for it. It's in this year's budget for it. So this was just going out and getting it, being a proprietary product. I got the letter from Trojan. They will not guarantee the efficiency and the quality of the UV disinfection if we were to use different markets or go out to another vendor to do this. So I think for the environment and quality, it's best to stick with the proprietor with that. So what we're looking for is to, besides also the PLC, they also recommended that HMI upgrade. We budgeted 25,000 for this, but comes in at a little over 30,000. Within that contracted service line item, I have no issue in finding that extra $5,000 to pay for that. So.
Okay. Any questions on this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Brian. This seems like a pretty simple decision. My one question, however, is have you or anyone in the wastewater division explored non-proprietary technologies or vendors that offer non-proprietary solutions that are plug and play? Like, I'll use your PLC with my HMI, kind of thing. Like, continuing to invest in a system that's completely proprietary is maybe necessary, but it's doesn't make me happy.
Right, and actually we had a situation where we lost a bank at the same Trojan system they have it at the Queechee plant. And at the end of the day, though, is that we can't get that quality. And they had used aftermarket UV bulbs, and they had been using it. And then when we had to replace the wiper arms down there too, they just basically, Trojan said, we're not touching this. We're not coming in and giving you our wiper assembly because you're not using our bulbs. So we were sort of kind of stuck at that time. So now you're taking a look at not just replacing the wiper arm component, but going to the controller and everything else with it, Eric. So yes, they have you in a bind, if you want to say, when you do that. So next plan upgrade is when you would take a look at, do you go to a different type of system, and can you do the mix and match type of components and go from there? So.
Good. Yeah, let's. I would encourage you to make a footnote there to explore the other vendors that might offer a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, we had to spend quite a bit of money just to replace those bulbs, so they would come in and actually do the work that needed to be done in wiper arms and keep the bulbs clean. So
thank you.
Tim, do you have any comments or questions for Brian?
I do not.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I will entertain a motion. Mike?
Yep, Madam Chair. I move that in accordance with section 3.7 of the town purchasing policy, the select board waive the requirements of section 5 competitive sealed bidding and award the Trojan UV 3000 plus Gen 3 SCC PLC and HMI upgrade in the amount of $30,053.89 to Trojan Technologies, London, Ontario, Canada, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute a limited service agreement for this upgrade.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley, thank you. And we will vote. We'll start with Eric.
Aye.
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Ashley?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Okay, so passes 6-0. All right.
Your vote is aye.
My vote is aye. Yes. All right. So then we are ready for Main Street Museum's request.
Nope.
One more, Brian.
Oh, one more.
D.
Oh. I have a new one here. Okay.
So the second item, this is part of our requirement. This is now for the landfill itself. We have a series, there's quite a few monitoring wells that go around the perimeter of the landfill. It's actually just to track any leaching of groundwater. We've been doing this for years. We've always used a private consulting firm to do it before. In the past, Stantec Engineer would do it for us. So we did an RFP last year. We received one quote, which we got from Sanborn Head. And then the discussions with the town manager in regards to what Sanborn Head is doing for us with all this, the C&D pile, and the potential that we may need to install some monitoring wells if we move forward with the in-situ place of the C&D there, that it would probably be best just to not just keep Sanborn Head on par with this. And it's a little over like $900 more than what they proposed last year, which has been in tune with what we had done in other years too, using Stantec. So that's just a recommendation that we do it in October and we'll do it again in May. So I budgeted 25 last year for it. So I do need to pull a little bit out of reserves for this to get this one done. So, but this is mandated. We have to do this testing for the water. So
it's, if I'm to be corrected by you, Brian, but this is routine monitoring of water quality around the transfer station, but also with the possibility of using this data to be gathered as a persuasion point to the state to show that what lead is not migrating off site, because that's the only pause that the state has indicated with respect to our plan to simply cap the C&D in its current location rather than excavating it and shipping it at great cost.
Any questions from the select board?
Brian, if I may, have any of those well reports been troubling, or is it for the most part, since they've been in action and been tested, they've been generally testing clean or clear or whatever the term is?
Tim, the one testing was, we have had one where we did have to know one of the abutter property owners of lead. There was a higher lead level. That was 2 cycles ago, but since then it's been good. So there's just been one time where we had lead levels that were higher than federal standards. So we just have to send a letter to the property owner, letting them know that the well tested by their house had a higher concentration of lead.
So following up on John's point, is it appropriate to get some guidelines from the state on what that trigger point would be for either requiring the removal of the C&D or not requiring the removal? I mean, do we have any kind of guidelines that would help us with that?
They do. There's a number. I can't quote you the value beyond which we tested 2 tests ago, but it was a pretty small order of magnitude in terms of parts per million or parts per billion even. So there was a slight exceedance, and the state wants to see, some additional testing to show that in fact there is no lead problem migrating off the site. That's what their caution about with respect to leaving the C&D in place. If we can show cleaner tests, the state seems to be open to allowing us to simply cap that C&D in place.
Does that answer your question, Tim?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's ever an end date to monitoring wells on this property.
Probably not in the very near future, no. As long as we have it and as long as there's issues, but with that, it'll be for a long time, Tim. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to follow up on Tim's line of questioning, which I think is a good line of questioning. So the state's given us a threshold for parts per million or billion or whatever it is for lead, which should be 0 technically, I suppose. But have they given us an indication of how many tests you have to be below the threshold in order to be able to move forward with the C&D plan, as John was talking about?
I don't have the letter from the state in front of me, I'm sorry to say, but the impression that it left with me, and Brian can jump in here, is that the state said they're open to the idea of leaving this C&D in place. They did note that 2 tests ago that there was a slight exceedance, and that they would like to see additional testing to show that that is not an ongoing issue. After which they might give us a green light to cap it in place. That's the best I can do. I'm sorry I don't have the letter in front of us, but I'd be happy to share it.
Yeah, great.
As a
It would just,
follow-up.
if the letter doesn't
Yeah.
specify what the additional means.
Yeah.
It might be worth pressing them on that, just so that we don't, this is
Right.
open-ended.
We don't want the football moved away from us as we're ready to kick it.
Right.
Yes, I
Right.
get it.
If there's nothing else, Madam Chair, I'm ready to make a motion.
Right, I'll take your motion.
Okay. I move that the board, in accordance with section 3.7 of the town purchasing policy, waive the requirements of section 5 competitive sealed bidding and award the FY26 landfill water quality testing to Sandboard Head Associates, Burlington, Vermont, in the amount of $35,700, and authorize the expenditure or transfer of $7,700 from Fund 30 Landfill Closure Reserve Fund, and authorize the Director of Public Works to execute a limited service agreement for this testing.
I'll take the second motion.
I'll second.
All right, Ashley. Thank you. We'll vote. Eric,
Aye.
Ida,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
Tim.
Aye.
Okay, and I vote aye. So that is 5-1. All right, thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Hope your shoulder gets better.
It is getting better. I had rotator cuff surgery, so just getting over it, so.
The Red Sox need you.
I'm sorry.
Was there a
Nay.
or
He voted nay, I believe.
Tim, what was your vote on that last one?
I voted aye. I
Oh,
approve.
we thought it was a nay. Okay, so.
I
was like,
apologize.
Tim, way to make waves.
Jeez. Second meeting, already causing trouble.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to consider Main Street Museum's request to hang light pole banners.
Yes, in anticipation of Gory Days, we have a spokesperson asking for permission to hang banners on our light poles.
Yeah, I just actually, the final just got finished up today. I just sent it to the town
You want to
manager.
introduce yourself? I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Yeah, cool. Sorry, I don't do this a lot. I'm
Yeah.
usually on that side of the camera.
Yeah.
I'm Cedar. I work at Jam. I've been, helping plan this with some folks from the Main Street Museum and also some people from the Downtown Business Alliance, the White River Junction Downtown Business Alliance, because they're helping pay for the banners, because Gory Days is just kind of like such an awesome, unique White River Junction tradition. And I think it's like the thing that I think I love best about this town. But I just really want to, or the event I love best that we do. And I just want to help us make it a really cool festive time. And the banners, I think, just got finished up today, and they got sent at like just a little after this meeting started to the town manager email. If
I
you wanna
just
see them.
forwarded to each of you.
Yeah. My friend and one of the cartoon studies grads designed the poster. They live in town. That's
Let me see it. Mine's slow. Oh, okay.
And I guess the one amendment to our application is that we're probably going to print 9 banners instead of 18, and are hoping that they'll be kind of like a thing that we can for printing cost reasons, and we're hoping that they can be a thing that we can reuse every year and add more to as the because they won't have dates on them, just like add more to every Gory Days.
And as we all know, Gory Days culminates on October 32nd.
Yep.
It's that trick or treat issue coming back to haunt us. All right, does anybody have any questions for Cedar? Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one very nitpicky item, Cedar. You've want the banners hung from 10/1 to 11/1, which is 31 days, according to my math. The policy the town has allows for 30 days. I mean, one day isn't a big deal, but if we're gonna have a policy, we probably ought to follow it.
Okay.
And so I would just suggest that we
Actually, I'm
update
not
that.
sure that's a problem, because we've had other individual groups ask for like 2 months in a row. So I'm just,
Well, the policy says 30 days at any one time, and then maximum 60 days per year, I believe. So it seems like we've got, well.
maybe it's my cold that's having problem, because the 60 days that we've had were together.
Consecutive 30-day cycles.
Right.
So that was not in accordance with the policy, which is fine. But I see Eric's point of why have a policy that limits it to that if we don't have to follow it.
Cedar, would you be okay hanging them from 10/2?
Well, given that Gory Days is on October 32nd, would it be all right if we hung them on 10/3 to 10 through 10/32, then took them down on November 2nd or 1st, whichever whatever day that is now?
Yeah, wait, so
I'm cool too.
Yeah, as long as you shorten it by 1 day.
Cool.
Whatever, yeah. Awesome.
so what are the dates then?
Let's say 10/3 through 10 through 11/2.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
Is that math? Does that math?
Yeah.
I think that
We've
works.
got computers that do everything.
Yeah.
Or AI instead of using our brains.
Thank you for being flexible.
Yeah, it is really no skin off my back.
And I can't remember, I did read this, and are all the banners gonna be in and around Main Street Museum, or?
Yeah, around downtown White River,
Okay.
along the parade route.
All right.
Cool, looks awesome.
Sweet.
Excited for it.
I just want to say one thing before we vote. I have absolutely no problems with this, but I'm being consistent as I have for the last several years. We have a policy. And at the time, I've been saying no until we heard some information from the VCLTD. And we have heard some information from Vermont League of Cities and Towns. And we haven't done anything with it. So I'm going to abstain. I just want you to know that I'm not doing that because I don't agree with what you're doing or your product. So,
Yeah, for sure.
okay. So, Mike,
Madam Chair, I move that we approve Main Street Museum's request to hang light pole banners
is
for
there,
the length of time specified after we amend it.
Which Lana will capture in the minutes.
10/3 to 11/2?
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ashley seconds the motion. All right, I'll take a vote. Eric,
Aye.
Ida,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
and I'll abstain. So 5-0-1.
Sweet.
All
Thank you,
right,
guys.
thank you,
I'm really
Cedar.
excited.
We're excited
Yeah,
too.
thank you.
Yes, there's another one.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, and I think that might be Chico. All right. Consider request for in-kind donation to Gory Days. Chico, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Chico Eastridge, White River Junction. I'm making a request that the town contribute an in-kind donation of the police that escort the parade. Over the years, the amount of money it takes to reserve the police for the parade has increased pretty dramatically. Used to be about $300, now it's about $900. In that time, our budget hasn't increased a whole lot, so we're getting squeezed a little bit. And I'm not claiming that's some sort of nefarious plot, but costs are costs. And so we thought this might be a good chance to have a little bit of collaboration with the town and put the town as a sponsor to take responsibility for providing the police for the parade, which is the most popular event that happens in White River Junction. It's been happening for about a quarter century now. And it's fun for everybody. It doesn't really, you know, it's hard to find something that is, I don't know. Oh, I would think isn't controversial, I guess. It's a fun event for everybody. Everyone's invited, and it doesn't cost anything to be in the parade or watch the parade. And so it's something I'm really proud of, and something I think the town should be proud of as well. And so that's where the request is.
Anybody have any questions for Chico? Eric?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chico. One question, and I don't know, perhaps I missed this in the memo, but what is the estimated total cost for the event? In other words, if the town made the in-kind donation of $896, roughly what percentage of the budget would that represent?
I think it gets clipped. I think I wish I had my budget in front of me, but so I'm probably a little bit inaccurate, but I believe we spend around $5,000. And so 900 is a fairly significant amount. It's about 19% on ballparking. So a fairly significant portion of our cost.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I certainly have no objection from the town staff side. It's simply a matter that the police chief didn't feel that she should be making this decision and thought that the select board, I agree with her, select board should chime in on whether they'd like us to absorb that cost within the police budget somewhere.
Would it come out of the general?
I think it would, yes, that would be part of the police department's budget within the general fund, yes.
May I make a comment?
Yes, Tim, I was going to ask.
Sorry. I love Gory Days. I don't want any of my questioning to indicate any indication that I think it's a fabulous, great community event. My concern is more in the realm of, you know, the definition of something requiring a public service to function. You know, the best example maybe I could give is like the alumni parade. You know, whether they need police services to run the alumni parade, or if another parade group came up and wanted to have a parade in Hartford. And again, it's a modest amount of money, but it's more setting a precedent of like defining an event where the event kind of nests itself. That is to say, like if this had always been within Parks and Rec, it would be kind of different because it would be sort of within the realm of town function and services. But again, I love the event and I want to support it, but I just feel like we have to be kind of careful that we're not just sort of, you know, clicking this through without considering in the future how, you know, if some other group came and wanted to have a parade and required police services and wanted us to carry that cost, you know, what does that look like? That's all.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ashley.
I move that the board approve the in-kind donation for the Gory Days event. Is the amount in the?
Yes, $896.
The in-kind donation of $896 for the Gory Days event.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Ida. Thank you.
I'd like to make an amendment.
Okay,
Would like to amend the amount to half of that, $448.
to half of that. Okay. So we only need to vote on Eric's friendly amendment. Start with Ashley.
So we're voting just on the amendment, or we're voting on the motion as amended?
Normally you vote on the amendment first and then
Okay.
see what happens with that and see how it affects the underlying motion. Might need a second for your
Yeah,
amendment
yeah,
proposal.
yeah.
Good point.
Is there a second to Eric's amendment of having the 896? Okay,
That's what I'm saying.
it does not pass. The friendly amendment does not pass, so we'll go back to the original.
For lack of a second, yes.
Okay, and we have a motion by Ashley and a second by Ida, so we're gonna vote. Eric?
No.
All right. Ida?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Ashley?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
I vote aye. So it will be 5-1. My voice. So the motion passes, Chico.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Chico.
Thank you. Thanks.
I have a question, maybe Chico, maybe you know, maybe someone on the board knows. What happened to the actual Glory Days festival? Why doesn't that happen anymore?
I would think that it was lack of revenue.
Who, do you know who did that?
I know my grandmother likes to take credit for it beginning, but she's no longer with us, so I'm not sure who was in charge of it. I just remember I used to work at the teen center downtown, and it would happen every year, and then it just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
I shouldn't speculate, or else I'll offend someone. Be like, it was very successful. I don't know.
Yeah, I think like 2016 or 2015 was the last I remember.
Maybe it's time to bring back Glory Days. If
Yeah.
you're out there.
Glory Days, people.
Bring back the trains.
They'll just think you spelled things wrong.
Yeah, the joke doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm like, we need the original parade. No. Awesome, thank
You
you.
can't have glory without gory.
All right, so then we'll move on to commission reports. I'll start with Ashley, if you have any commission reports.
Nothing to report.
All right, Mike,
Nothing to report.
Ida,
None.
Eric,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do. The Hartford Conservation Commission, I think I mentioned some months ago, they established a Conservator of the Year award, and they're taking nominations for that. The nomination period closed, but they had a very limited number of applicants, and so, or nominations. And so I believe that the board, there wasn't a quorum, but I believe that the commission, when it reconvenes in October, is going to extend that period. And they wanted me to ask the board and invite the board to nominate people that are doing good work in conservation, whether it's tackling invasives or studying habitat or what have you, someone that you might know has been very active in the community for years, or very working intensely on conservation. They would love to get some more nominations. So any information on that, you can contact me or Katie Mann or Matt Osborne in the planning development, who is the staff liaison for the commission.
Just a really quick question. Do they have to be a Hartford resident?
That's a question you're going to have to direct to them. I can't remember. I know that came up, and I can't remember what the decision was on that. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
But I can find out and get back to you.
Tim, you have any commission reports? Not that you've had a lot of time. He may be gone. It's on vacation, why not?
Oh, he's back.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. I do not. If I may, I was just reflecting on thinking about the Hartford Garden Friends. It sort of tied me back to this conservation conversation, and what incredible work they do in our community. I sometimes drive around, you see all these flowers and things that they work on. I believe all of it's volunteer, and it's pretty amazing. So I just wanted to shout out to them. Thanks.
Well, you can nominate them for this award.
That's what I was kind of thinking might be appropriate. So,
and my commission report, I'm going to stay away from it because John went over a little bit of it. If you want to see what, a little bit about what we talked about at Bugby, it's written up, and I'm assuming JD has it on the website.
It's already been posted.
So rather than have me talk my gravelly voice, maybe better for you to just read it.
Mary, could I ask you a question pertaining to that?
Yes.
I'm very excited about the work you guys are doing, and I'm also concerned in the sense that we're arriving at a budget cycle, and I'm not pressuring the committee per se, but do you anticipate that they could have enough kind of work and processing that they would seg into our, a budget request kind of thing for the work that they would like to do?
Well, I do think that right now from the meeting we had, we kind of ended on an emphasis of finding out how we could fund. It seems like people are leaning to that's just too much to have to renovate. And I know there was pretty good discussion between Mark Bradley and Lori Hirschfield, because Lori has so much more experience, and she said she'd get together with him to talk about, it would have to be up to about 10 different entities. It wouldn't be just a bond. It would be grants, philanthropic, everything. So that's kind of where we left off at the end.
Okay.
Because we
Thank
took a tour and
The bylaws do identify November 15th as a target. That's why the committee's meeting every couple of weeks, kind of a fast track. So we're hopeful that we can meet that, but no guarantees.
Right.
When you have a committee of 14 people, anything
Right.
can happen.
It always takes a little bit more time when you have that many people. So.
Well, my other thought around that, saying nothing of the hard cost, is typically there's a significant amount of soft cost just in the kind of analysis of what the future could look like. I know they've already done some preliminary study work, so perhaps that's an appropriate spot for them.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. And now you can go back to your vacation, unless you have to stay.
The ocean was really nice today, by the way.
Yes, Mike.
I move that the board approve payroll ending 9/13/25, approve AP manifest 9/12/25 and 9/18/25, approve meeting minutes of 9/2/25, future meetings approved for 9/30/25, 10/3/25, the outreach event 10/14/25, and 10/28/25.
Is there a second?
Second that.
All right, second by Mike, a second by Eric. And let's go through it again. Eric, you want to start us out?
Aye.
Ida?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Ashley?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that's 6-0. And we have no executive sessions. So I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, and is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ida. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Have documents for signatures.
yes.
Good night.
Bye, Tim.
Right.